Okay, hello and welcome to this video in the Mystical Science Stuff COVID-19 series. It's been a while since a new video has appeared on the channel. That's basically because of GCSE and A-level exam marking, so good luck to all of you guys getting results this year. So anyway, we're on the road back to normal, and obviously there's a few things to update you on, right? So this is going to be two quite quick little videos that are going to come out because I'm now double vaccinated, fantastic, and there's obviously been a few changes, right? Obviously, this thing called the Delta variant, what is that? What does it mean? Where does it come from? Why have we got something called the Delta variant suddenly? Why has the name changed? Okay, we're going to talk about vaccine progress, obviously more crazy conspiracies. The more of us seem to be getting vaccinated, the more the loonies seem to be coming up with ever more ridiculous things to scare us with. And then obviously my second jab, right? And obviously to reference one particularly funny conspiracy I've seen, I am still not magnetic, right? And I can show you that as empirical evidence. So let's do this one though as the first video, as our first little video in this mini series. What is in the name of a virus? Now, I thought this is quite interesting from a biological point of view, but I can understand why non-biologists or biology students are pretty confused about why the names of things seem to keep changing, okay? Well, how do we name a virus in the first place? It's probably something you never thought of before the COVID-19 pandemic occurred. Literally, how do scientists name a specific virus? So I was doing a bit of research and I had found this fantastic article in the BMJ called 60 Seconds on Naming Strains. Okay, and basically, to summarize, it goes a little bit like this. Okay, well, you start with sort of the date of the origin. That's always part of it. The genetics can also be part of it as well. So what types of genes has it got, therefore what proteins is it expressing, which gives you its kind of family of viruses, and it's what's called clade. Now, normal taxonomy doesn't work here because normal taxonomy is based on the species concept. Species concept, as many of you know, is about breeding and producing viable offspring. But viruses don't really work in that way in that they're not alive on their own. So how on earth do you decide what's a different virus and what's just a version of the same virus and so on and so forth, okay? Obviously, antigen structure is the one we're really interested in, is this idea of what the protein on the spike is like, okay? So for example, COVID-19, as we've mentioned in a previous video, actually refers to the disease itself, right? So coronavirus disease 19, okay, is the disease itself. The actual virus, the species, if you like, or the virus as it was first named is SARS-CoV-2, right? So severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, okay, and that's the virus, okay? Formerly, right, at the beginning of the pandemic, we had other names for it, which were nCoV-19 or 2019 novel coronavirus, right, all these ones. And we sort of settled on SARS-CoV-2, okay? But it's all new, right? It's a new virus, so it requires new naming, okay? And then you get these extra complexities, these new variants, these different, more infectious or maybe slightly different structured ones. The one that we're probably mostly likely to get at the moment, or until recently have been, is called B117, right? Commonly referred to as the UK or the Kent variant. Now, obviously it's an easier name to remember, but it's a little bit problematic, and I'll explain to you why. So this proper terminology, B117, where does that come from? Well, this is a thing that virologists have called its Pango lineage, okay? And obviously you can have a look at the link that's down here, right, to look at the page where I've got a lot of this information from, okay? Basically, in a Pango lineage nomenclature of a virus, each dot in the numerical means a descendant of, okay? So basically, it only works when you can really see this virus is a derivative of that virus is a derivative of that virus. And that usually comes from sequencing its genome. That's something that we in Britain are very good at. So for example, lineage B117 is the 7th named descendants of lineage B1.1. So you've got the SARS-CoV-2 virus, you've got lineage B, one descendant of that, and then one descendant of that descendant. Okay, so this is two sort of generations down of variety down. So B1.7 is the 7th named descendant of lineage B1.1. C.1, for example, would be the first named descendant of lineage C. Because viruses are always changing their genetics. They're really messy in the way that they reproduce inside our cells. So variants pop up and die and pop up and die and pop up and die really quickly, right? And you get this incredibly complicated nomenclature, most of which doesn't even scratch the surface. So Complicated, huh? Right, so if you imagine your newsreaders reading out B1.1.7, oh yes, we all know what that one is. It's understandable why the common media, the present sort of media in the common tongue doesn't actually use these terminology, right? This terminology. It's very, very good for virologists, not so good for public understanding. So here's the problem with going the other way and naming the viruses after where they were first categorized. Okay, you might remember this chap, thankfully no longer in office, who insisted on referring to coronavirus in its entirety as the Chinese virus. It's the Chinese virus, it's come from China, it's China's fault, it's China's this, China's that. Now, obviously, that is problematic, right? That is obviously, you can see his advisors behind there are not looking overly enthusiastic about this kind of terminology, nor any of his other medical outpourings, shall we say. Now you might think, well, why is it a problem to name it after the place that that it came from? Well, one, it may not even have come from that place. Okay, the fact that something is characterised in Kent, UK, or in Brazil, or in India, or in South Africa, doesn't necessarily mean that that virus first, that mutation that caused that new variant, turned up in that country. And also, we can see what happens. Okay, if you've got world leaders talking about places that are associated with large groups of people, right, it can lead to nationalism and obviously problematic views. It's not actually, the fact that this emerged in China is not necessarily anything to do with your average Chinese person, and the same for the Brazilian variant and the residents of the UK or Kent, right? And more recently, the Indian variant, okay? So obviously, the biology sort of technical names, right, are too complicated. So the technical names are too, well, just to put it technical, right? And the broad area names risk this kind of stigma and misunderstanding, okay? Now, Kent variant, as we said, it was characterised, sure, in Kent, but Britain's looking harder, right? We have a lot of labs that do a lot of, do an awful lot of gene sequencing and that kind of stuff, and this variant was discovered there. Other countries refer to it as the UK variant. We call it the Kent variant. You can already see there's, there's differences and confusion and problems there, okay? Now, obviously, the Indian variant, which is the variant of interest, variant of concern at the moment, may not have emerged in India. It's certainly the one that's dominant in India, and it's becoming the dominant strain in the UK, right? See previous videos for how viruses evolve to become more infectious, right, and less deadly as they move into a population, right? See previous videos about that. But it may not have evolved or emerged in India, right? So the World Health Organization has taken this very pragmatic view, I think, to basically say that we should be calling all these things by just the Greek alphabet, right? So the alpha one, right? B1.1.7, right? That's a variant of COVID. That's the sort of what we used to refer to as the Kent variant, the one that turned up in Kent in September 2020. The beta variant, right? That's what used to be called the South African variant. The gamma, that's the one that used to be called the Brazilian variant, and the delta is the one that used to be called the Indian variant. Okay, and that obviously is a lot clearer. It's something that the media can use. It's something that we can all use, and it doesn't necessarily tie the virus to one particular location or one particular nation or one particular people, because of course this virus, if we've learned anything about it, does not respect international boundaries. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are. It's just as much of a problem. Okay, so you can see obviously the link there if you want to read the World Health Organization's rationale for doing that. And it's something that the BBC and other media outlets have taken on, which is great, I think. Much clearer to do it this way. And then, of course, the next ones will be other variants. They do exist already. You can go further, but they are what the World Health Organization are calling variants of interest rather than variants of concern. Okay, so that's the first bit of this two-part little series. We'll come back to vaccinations next time. Thanks very much for listening, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.